Shabbat Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashum, Yahushai, Ba'ashum, Rachakwaдаsh, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of your elect. Hey, Shalom. This lesson, just going to be going into Hanukkah, which should be coming in, let me make sure. Okay, should be coming in Sunday evening, and it should be, for 8 days. So this is a holiday that us the Israelites, we celebrated the rededication, the renovating of the temple after it was desecrated by Antiochus the Fourth. They were polluting the temple with different sacrifices and different abominations, and this rededicating of the temple was led by the Maccabees. So I'm going to start here. This is John chapter 10 and verse 22. Because without the Apocrypha, without this information, you have history, yeah, but you also have the scriptures. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. This is John chapter 10 and verse 22 from the King James. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And matter of fact, let me continue reading. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter, and Yahushai walked in the temple of Solomon's porch. And then, this is Yahushai is celebrating this day as well as the rest of Jerusalem or Israel in this time, because this is a very heavy day. This is a beautiful day. But hey, Yahushai himself celebrated this day, and you don't find this anywhere. You don't find it in the Old Testament. You don't find it anywhere in the New Testament, but you find it here in the New Testament, but you find it in the Apocrypha. Without it being written about, you really wouldn't know. You have these people that say that the Apocrypha is not valid or whatever, but hey, who cares what they think? But this is just showing, that the Apocrypha is valid, and Yahushua celebrated this day. So I'm going to the commentary. Let's see. I'm not going to read the Ellicott's. It went to 20. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Sometimes if you go to the commentary and you're looking at the entire chapter, it'll look at the entire chapter. But if you want to look at the commentary for an individual verse or whatever, you have to go to, that verse. So here I wanted to look at a little bit. Let me see here. I'll look at the Benson commentary, and I think there was another one. I think it's the Barnes. Okay, so this is the Benson commentary, John 10, 22 and 23. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, or as my Greek ain't that great, may be rendered, now the feast of dedication came on at Jerusalem, for it does not appear that the preceding courses from John 7:4. Okay, let me jump down. This festival, which according to the meaning of the Greek term might be more properly called the Feast of Renovation, was instituted by Judas Maccabeus, and it says 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 59, in memory of their pulling down the altar of burnt offerings, which had been profaned by the pagans, and building a new one dedicated to the true power, and of their purifying the temple from the pollutions and idolatries of Antiochus Epiphanes. And this is Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. And there's a lot of Antiochuses. So, but this restoration of the worship of the Most High was a very joyful event to the very religious Israelite, and being considered as a new dedication to of the temple, great regard was paid to the festival instituted in remembrance of it. So this is a very great day, because here it is. If you understand what was going on around this time, you Israel was being ruled over by different nations. First, the Assyrians took the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom went over to the Americas, or Arsareth, after a period of time. So the northern kingdom was gone. Then the southern kingdom went into captivity under the Babylonians. And then from there, they were ruled over by the Persians and the Medes. And then from there, the Greeks, which is, the time period how do you say it? The Maccabees, came up at the same time period at what you would get Hellenization, where Israelites, or the Jews, the southern kingdom, were being Hellenized, meaning that they were turning away from their customs that were given to them by the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and turning to other nations, speaking their language, joining unto their customs, not circumcising themselves. Lord willing, we can read this. So accordingly, though it was of human institution, so this isn't, one of the, the high holy days that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, gave us. We have high holy days that are written about in, Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, but this is a new day, but the Heavenly Father didn't have a problem with this, because it was for Him, So accordingly, though it was one of human institution, our Lord did not scruple being present at it, meaning He didn't doubt being present at it. He didn't have a problem with it, because Yahushua had problems with other things, the money changers in the temple, people selling, making merchandise of the Lord's house, but He didn't have a problem with showing, dedication to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. And that's what this is, you standing up for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. The scripture that comes to mind, who will dang it. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because it's coming to mind. I can't remember how it's worded. This is Psalms 94 and verse 16. It's like, I'm a little excited. I'm trying to slow down a bit when I speak. Psalms 94 and verse 16. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? So, this is who Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is in the heavens, but who is here on earth that'll be His servants? Who's going to stand up against the evil? These evildoers, these workers of iniquity. In that time, it started with the Maccabees, starting with the father, Mattathias. And then today we were reading these accounts, and we know the scriptures were written for our learning. We know these things are getting ready to take place again. There's going to be a persecution against those that fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. But again, Psalms 94 and verse 16, who will rise up against the evil, who will rise up for me against the evildoers, or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Unless Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. So it's Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai that fights for us. You know, we fight for him, he fights for us. But you know, that's pretty much it. I can read this again. No, that's all right, the point. But the point is, this is written about. It's in the scriptures, it's in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was taken out, and if you don't have the Apocrypha, you know, if you don't know about 1st and 2nd Maccabees, 1st and 2nd Ezra's, Baruch, you know, Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, if you don't know about these books that are in the Apocrypha, these books were taken out, and these books are you would call what you could say like a missing link. You know, because without the Apocrypha, without the events that happened in 1st and 2nd Maccabees, you know, you're not going to understand really what's going on in the New Testament, because it just jumps. You're not going to understand, you know, the prophecies that happened in Daniel, in Daniel 2, Daniel chapter 7, chapter 8. You know, and that time period, it just jumps. You know, you don't know really what's going on. You don't know why they're doing these customs. We don't know. You don't know why all this happened. So this is I think I'll start. This is Daniel chapter 8, and I'll start at verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which was in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. Now this here, Daniel seen a vision of a ram, and it had 2 horns. This is representative of the Persians and the Medes. Now at first the Medes were stronger, but eventually the Persians took over. So that's why it says this one horn was higher than the other, because they had a joint kingdom. But eventually the Persians ended up taking over. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. So now this ram representing the Persians and the Medes, during that time period that it was allotted to rule, it conquered everything, you know. And you can look at the conquest of the Persians and the Medes, that empire at that time. Verse 5, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Now this represents the Grecians. This represents Alexander the Great. You know, if you look at Alexander's conquest, you know, he only ruled for 12 years. And during that 12 years, he conquered the entire world. You know, that's why it's saying his feet touch not the ground. You know, this is how quick he was moving, you know. At verse 6, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver out of there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So it's showing you that this Alexander the Greek, he came to conquer, and he totally destroyed the Persians, conquered them. Verse 8, therefore the he goat waxed very great. Now also, in these kingdoms, when you conquered, like say the Persians and the Medes, they took over the Babylonians. When they took over everything that those Babylonians, all the lands that they had conquered. So, in Esther, I believe it says the Persians, they ruled from Ethiopia all the way to India, that vast amount of land. So when the Greeks conquered, guess what? They get all that land too. They inherit that land because they conquered them. Daniel 8 and verse 8. Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. So now this is going into the different generals that Alexander the Greek had. And while he had more than four generals, but these are the most notable ones. So you had Cassander, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Antigonus. So to make that a little easier, I can just type this into Google real quick, for more visual. And they were called the Diadochi. So here you go. You just type in Alexander's four generals. Alexander the Great's four generals who divided his empire after his death in 323 BC were Ptolemy, who ruled Egypt, Cassander, one of the successors or Diadochi, Seleucus ruled Asia Minor and Persia, and Antigonus ruled much of Asia Minor. So, the kingdom that Alexander had was split into four, pretty much, and it went to these four generals. And while they had different wars and battles amongst themselves, but it mostly went to these four. So these generals, known as the Diadochi, fought over Alexander's empire in a series of wars known as the Wars of the Successors. The wars plunged the Hellenistic world into chaos and civil war for 3 decades. The generals eventually established dynasties that lasted for centuries. The Hellenistic world eventually settled into 4 stable power blocks: the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in the east, the Kingdom of Pergamon in Asia, and Macedon. So that's pretty much for that. That's just a quick little backstory on that. I don't know what I just closed. Oops. And that's too late. Oh, a low rolling will come back. Oh, man. That's all right. So I'm going to come back to this Daniel 8, Lord willing. But this is First Maccabees, and I'll start at verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came up out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Now, did I not just... that's in Daniel. This is what was prophesied in Daniel, and this happened. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. So, he got filled with pride. You just conquered the world, the known world. And you did it in a short period of time at that. Here it is, different empires, they've gone through different successions of kings, and acquired territory. But here it is, you've done it in one sitting. You know, you did this like in a warm up, you know. You know, we used to skateboard or whatever, so we would do when we would do tricks and stuff like that, we would be like, you know, tray flip or kick flip, whatever. You know, first try, no warm up. You know, kind of like like that. Like man, you know, you killing it without I don't need to warm up. It's lucky. Just adjusting the Palo. Okay, where was I? First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. So every he had pretty much like the approach that he had was he conquered you, and whatever lands that you living in, you could keep your customs. Whatever you were worshiping, whatever you were doing there, you can keep those customs. Just give me the money. Just give me tribute. Just pay the taxes. So, First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So this is that who his kingdom was parted to. Those four generals that I read about. Cassander, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Antigonus. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So this is a very wicked time, and it's hard to imagine. It's not hard to imagine. Evils were multiplied back then. Great atrocities were done. And now we're living in times where wickedness is completely abounding, like weeds. And here, I'm going to read this. First Maccabees 1 and 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So from here, this is written about also in Daniel 8. So from here, Daniel 8, let's see here. Daniel 8 and verse 9, and actually, let me read it. Daniel 8 and verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. So that's Alexander dying. And for it came up, four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. So this is the four generals, the Diadochi. Verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And this is Antiochus Epiphanes, the fourth. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. So it's showing you his ruthless rule. He was also he had a nickname, I think, Epimanes or Epimanes, something like that, because it was a play on his name Epiphanes, and it means madman. But that's also a scripture. He shall be like a madman, sparing none. This was him. Verse 11, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So telling you what's happening. He destroyed the Israelites, the Israelites that were left in the land. He tore down the what do you call it? He took away the sacrifice. He took away, it was no longer legal to profess yourself to be a Jew. Lord willing, I can get this. Verse 11, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And in hosts, and basically the temple was defiled. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So he was completely, this is a time, a very low point in Israel. We're being trampled. And you know what? I'll keep reading. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall it be division concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So this is roughly, if you look into that and you divide 2,300, I believe, by 354, that's a lunar year. That's roughly about 6 years. And when you look at the time period of Antiochus, when he ruled all this, when he went into Jerusalem, that time period, links up. So back to First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So this is Antiochus ruling. So from here, I'm going to go to the Wikipedia real quick. We're just going to glance at this, not too much. So Antiochus, this is from Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. So 215 BC to November or December 164 BC was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled the Seleucid Empire. So this is one of the four generals, and this is that root that sprung out of one of the four horns of the Seleucids, who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164. He was the son of Antiochus III the Great. Originally named Mithridates, he assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus's reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. So once again, all this is lining up with the scriptures. The scriptures are the truth. Let's see here. Oh, I wasn't going to look at that. Let's see here. Antiochus's accession to the throne was controversial, and he was seen as a usurper by some after the death of his brother Seleucus the fourth Philopator in 175 BC. The true heir should have been Seleucus's son Demetrius I. However, Demetrius I was very young and a hostage in Rome at the time, and Antiochus seized the opportunity to declare himself king instead, successfully rallying enough Greek ruling class in Antioch to support his claim. This helped set a destabilizing trend in the Seleucid Empire in subsequent generations. So, just giving you a, the backstory, because these are Edomites here that are ruling. They might think they're Greeks because they had that title, but these are Edomites. This isn't. You might think they're the Greeks, they're Japhet. The original Greeks are Japhites, but not these. You can tell through their actions. The blood that they leave, the blood trail. So this helps set a destabilizing trend in the Seleucid Empire as in subsequent generations, as an increasing number of claimants tried to usurp the throne. After his own death, power struggles between competing lines of the ruling dynasty heavily contributed to the collapse of the empire. So you had what he basically did was start a power vacuum, and after he died, it got worse and led to collapse. So Antiochus's often eccentric behavior and capricious actions during his interactions with common people, such as appearing in the public bathhouses and applying for municipal offices, led some of his contemporaries to call him Epimanes, or the mad. They call him a madman, a wordplay on his title Epiphanes, so they call him Epimanes. So Antiochus, born around 215 BC, was a son of the Seleucid king Antiochus the Great. I read that. As a potential successor to the throne, he became a political hostage of the Roman Republic under the terms of the Treaty of Apamea, concluded in 188 BC. After his older brother Seleucus IV Philopator succeeded their father on the throne in 187 BC. Antiochus was exchanged for his nephew Demetrius, the son and heir of Seleucus. After this, Antiochus lived in Athens and was there when his brother was assassinated in 175 BC by the government minister Heliodorus. Heliodorus proclaimed himself regent afterward, essentially giving himself control of the government. This arrangement did not last long. With the help of King Eumenes of Pergamum, Antiochus IV traveled from Athens through Asia Minor and reached Syria by November 175 BC. Seleucus's legitimate heir Demetrius was still a hostage in Rome, so Antiochus seized the throne for himself, proclaiming himself to be co-regent with another son of Seleucus, an infant named Antiochus. Antiochus, son of Seleucus the Fourth, would later die in 170 BC, possibly murdered by Antiochus. So, showing you that a lot of assassinations, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of usurping the throne, a lot of confusion. You know what? I'm just going to get to... Let's see here. I'm going to keep going. Wars against Egypt and relations with Rome. After his ascension, Antiochus took care to maintain good relations with the Roman Republic, sending an embassy to Rome in 173 BC with a part of the unpaid indemnity still owed from 188 BC, Treaty of Apamea. While there, the embassy secured a renewed treaty of friendship and alliance with Rome, greatly helped by the fact that Antiochus had come to power with the help of Eumenes II, Rome's principal ally in the region. The guardians of King Ptolemy VI, Philopator, demanded the return of Coele Syria in 170 BC, declaring war on the Seleucids on the assumption that the kingdom was divided after Antiochus's murder of his nephew. However, Antiochus had warning of the attack and had prepared more thoroughly. So, there's infighting. They Ptolemy wants that part, that part of the land back. However, Antiochus had warning of the attack and had prepared more thoroughly. He had already built his forces and moved them into position. As soon as the Egyptian forces left Pelusium, they were attacked and defeated by Antiochus IV and his Seleucid army. The Seleucids then seized Pelusium, giving them supplies and access to all of Egypt. He advanced into Egypt proper, conquering all but Alexandria and capturing King Ptolemy. This was partially achieved because Rome, the Ptolemaic Egypt's traditional ally, was embroiled in the Third Macedonian War and was not willing to become involved anywhere else or become involved elsewhere. So this is where Ptolemy had to run away. To avoid alarming Rome, Antiochus allowed Ptolemy VI to continue ruling as a puppet king from Memphis. Upon Antiochus's withdrawal, the city of Alexandria chose a new king, one of Ptolemy's brothers, also named Ptolemy VIII, Euergetes. The Ptolemy brothers reconciled and agreed to rule Egypt jointly instead of fighting a civil war. So Antiochus, pretty much set up puppet leaders in Egypt, both the Ptolemies. In 168 BC, Antiochus led a second attack on Egypt and also sent a fleet to capture Cyprus. Before he reached Alexandria, his path was blocked by a single elderly Roman ambassador named Gaius Pompilius Laenas, who delivered a message from the Roman Senate directing Antiochus to withdraw his armies from Egypt and Cyprus, or considering himself in a state of war with the Roman Republic. So, here, Antiochus is coming back to try to take Egypt again, but he's met with a Roman ambassador, Gaius Popilius Linus, and this is where, that matter of fact, I can keep reading. Antiochus said he would discuss it with his council, whereupon the Roman envoy drew a line in the sand around Antiochus and said, "Before you leave this circle, give me a reply that I can take back to the Roman Senate." This implied Rome would declare war if the king stepped out of the circle without committing to leave Egypt immediately. So this is where that, the line in the sand comes from, that saying. Because here, if you want to take Egypt, this is going to be an act of war. So we got to know right now, the line is in the sand. Make your move. And this, because of these events here, led up to what I'm getting ready to get into. And it's lucky for the long backstory. Might even have to do part two. So before you leave this circle, give me a reply that I can take back to the Roman Senate. This implied Rome would declare war if the king stepped out of the circle without committing to leave Egypt immediately. Weighing his options, Antiochus decided to withdraw. Only then did Popilius agree to shake hands with him. Ancient sources and traditional historiography describe this day of Eleusis as a great humiliation for Antiochus IV that unhinged him for some time. Some modern, But anyway, around the same time, you had going on. So let me see here. In Second Maccabees, let me see here. It is in there. Let me make sure I get the right. You know what? Let me keep reading for a second. Persian persecution of the Jews and the Maccabean revolt. The Seleucids, like the Ptolemies before them, held a suzerainty over Judea. Basically, you keep your traditions, whatever, just give me the money. They respected Jewish culture and protected Jewish institutions, which these are Israelite. There were no Jewish back then. These are Israelites. These are Judeans. Yahweh. This policy was drastically reversed by Antiochus IV, seemingly after what was either a dispute over leadership in the temple in Jerusalem and the office of the high priest, or possibly a revolt whose nature was lost to time after being crushed. So here, I'm going to jump down here. Local revolts against the Seleucid Empire were not unusual, but most were not successful. The revolt that Antiochus IV ultimately triggered in Judea was unusually well chronicled and preserved, however. According to, why is that? I mean, we got prophecy. This is extending basically an extension of what's happening in prophecy, giving you more detail what's going on. According to the book of 2nd Maccabees, the crisis had its origins in the years leading up to the Sixth Syrian War. In 171 BC, Antiochus had deposed the high priest Jason and replaced him with Menelaus, who had offered Antiochus a large bribe to secure the office. In 168 BC, when Antiochus was campaigning in Egypt, a rumor spread in Judea that he had been killed, and Jason gathered a force of 1,000 soldiers. So now I'm going to, read this. So I'm going to start here because it's talking about Jason, but before Jason, was in office, it was Onias. So 2nd Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 1. Now when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and the laws were kept very well, because of the godliness of Onias, the high priest, and his hatred of wickedness. So, hey, that's a good thing for him. Hey, so as the ruler of the city, or roughly paraphrasing, let me get that real quick. Sirach 10 and verse 2, as the judge of the people is himself, so are all his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. So just showing, the ruler of the city, he's a righteous man. Hey, that kind of thing is gonna, that behavior is gonna be, with his officers, with the people of the city. And if the opposite, if you have somebody wicked ruling, guess what? They're going to have wicked people around them. There's going to be wickedness, abounding pretty much. Second Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 2. And it came to pass that even the kings themselves did honor the place and magnify the temple with their best gifts. Insomuch that Seleucus of Asia of his own revenues bare all the costs belonging to the services of the sacrifice, but one Simon of the tribe of Benjamin, who was made governor of the temple, fell out with the high priest about disorder in the city. And when he could not overcome Onias, he gat him to Apollonius, the son of Thracias, who then was governor of Celesyria and Phoenicia, and told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money, so that the multitude of their riches, which did not pertain to the account of the sacrifices, was innumerable, and that it was possible to bring all into the king's hand. So this guy here is wicked. He's selling out the temple so he can so he can rule. Here it is. That treasures of the temple. That's a very, holy thing. That's for the like it says it later that it's for the widows, the fatherless children. That's that you stealing from the Most High pretty much, and you giving away the treasures of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai to these other nations. Second Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 6, and told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money, so that the multitude of their riches, which did not pertain to the account of the sacrifices, was innumerable, and that it was possible to bring all into the king's hand. Now when Apollonius came to the king and had showed him of the money whereof he was told, the king chose out Heliodorus, his treasurer, and sent him with a commandment to bring him the foresaid money. So forthwith Heliodorus took his journey under a color of visiting the city of Celesyria in Phoenicia, but indeed to fulfill the king's purpose. So he came, he sent out Heliodorus, to look, act like you're doing something else, but really you got something else in mind. Verse 9, and when he was come to Jerusalem and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, he told him what intelligence was given of the money, and declared wherefore he came, and asked if these things were so indeed. And then the high priest told him that there was money laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children, and that some of it had belonged to Hyrcanus, son of Tobias, a man of great dignity, and not as that wicked Simon had misinformed. The sum whereof in all was 400 talents of silver and 200 of gold. So Simon had lied to him. And it was altogether impossible that such wrongs should be done unto them that had committed it to the holiness of the place and to the majesty of inviolable sanctity of the temple, honored all over the world. But Heliodorus, because of the king's commandment given him, said that in any wise it must be brought to the king's treasury. So that day which he appointed, he entered in order to take. So at the day which he appointed, he entered in to order this matter. Wherefore there was no small agony throughout the whole city. But the priests, prostrating themselves before the altars in their priest vestments, called unto heaven upon him that made a law concerning the things to be kept, that they should safely be preserved for such as had committed them to be kept. So this guy came to rob the temple, and that was a terrible day. And the priests were praying. In verse 16, then whoso had looked at the high priest in the face, it would have wounded his heart, for his countenance and the changing of his color declared the inward agony of his mind. For the man was so compassed with fear and horror of the body that it was manifest to them that looked upon him what sorrow he had now in his heart. Others ran flocking out of their houses to the general supplication, because the place was like to come into contempt. And the women, girt with sackcloths under their breasts, abounded in the streets, and the virgins that were kept in ran, some to the gates and some to the walls, and others looked out the windows, and all holding their hands towards heaven made supplications. So this is a terrible day, and this is before Antiochus came. But let me keep going. I'm going to jump down to verse 23. Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed. Now, as he was there present himself with his guard about the sanctuary, the Lord of spirits and the Prince of all powers caused a great apparition, so that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and fainted, and were sore afraid. For there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider upon him, and adorned with a very fair covering. And he ran fiercely and smote at Heliodorus with his forefeet. And it seemed that he had sat upon a horse, it seemed that he that sat upon the horse had a complete harness of gold. So, Heliodorus, everybody's seen a vision of an angel, and that angel is whooping Heliodorus. Moreover, 2 other young men appeared before him, notable in strength, excellent in beauty, and comely in apparel, who stood by him on either side and scourged him continually, and gave him many sore stripes. So the angels they're going to town on Heliodorus, And Heliodorus fell suddenly unto the ground and was compassed with great darkness. But they that were with him took him up and put him into a litter. And that's pretty much it for that. The Heliodorus tried to rob the temple. I was trying to get down to where it talks about let me see here. It talks about Jason. Let me see here. That's lucky. That's a good read. I was in the wrong. It's okay. It's still good information though. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 4. And I'll start at verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus, called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest. So this is what it was talking about in the Wikipedia article. He had a bribe. So this is what Jason was trying to do underhandedly. He's trying to bribe Antiochus. Verse 8, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Verse 9, besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise, and for training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. So this here, Jason was selling out. If you let me rule, you make me the high priest, I'll give you money. We can build a place of exercise. He's completely wicked. This man is only concerned for his belly. So verse 10, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation into Greekish fashion. So you sold out your nation. You brought them into this heathenish fashion. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. And he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. For he had built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. So this is where them hats coming from. Like yarmulkes. This wasn't like a custom that we had. Wearing a cap like that. We wore mitris. look similar to headbands, but we didn't wear no hats. And yeah, I'm gonna end this right here. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna come back for the second part.